Hello, and thank you for joining me again. So in the last video, I talked about the need to go on the offensive against your addiction. You cannot take a passive approach where you just have some software on your computer and your cell phone, you have an accountability partner, and then you just try to deal with temptations and urges after they come at you, being reactive. But you have to preempt the temptations and prepare ahead of time before they hit you. And there needs to be a plan in place ahead of time for when temptation comes so that you will be ready for the fight and you will not be blindsided. It's like a boxer who has a boxing match coming up. They don't just relax as the boxing match approaches, thinking, well, I'll just spring into action when the time comes and it'll be okay. No, they train hard in preparation for the match. They study their opponent. They try to understand how their opponent operates, what their strategy is, and then they form a plan for how to beat them when the time comes. It's like that. So if pornography is a serious problem for you, if it is a deeply ingrained, long-standing pattern in your life, then you are likely facing a very difficult period of withdrawal. You're going to have to go through a certain number of temptations and urges, kind of like a series of boxing matches, against an opponent who up until this point has been laying you out each time you fight. And there's another fight that's coming up. So maybe you just relapsed in the last few days, and maybe by now you have an idea of what this cycle looks like for you and when the next urge is likely going to hit you. Maybe you tend to relapse on the weekends, or maybe you are in a binge and purge cycle, which is like what I was in, where you binge on pornography for hours and hours over the course of 2 or 3 days. Then you're fed up with it and you stay away from it for a few weeks or maybe a month, but then you end up binging again when the urges get too strong. Or maybe you tend to relapse every few days or once a day in smaller ways, just a few pictures or a few short videos, and then that's all until tomorrow or until 2 or 3 days from now. Whatever the pattern looks like in your life, you have a certain amount of time before the next temptation and the next urge is likely going to come at you. So you need to start training for your upcoming boxing match and for the ones that are going to follow it. When that temptation comes and that urge hits you, you need to be able to sit with it, cling to the Lord for dear life, and allow the urge to pass, which is easier said than done, as you probably already know, and that's why you need to take the preparation so seriously. This needs to be priority number 1 in your life before everything else, because pornography addiction will destroy everything else in your life if you do not beat it by the power of the Spirit. Once you have that first big victory, once a strong urge comes and it feels awful and you are desperate to relapse, but you don't give in, you keep your eyes on Jesus and you walk with him through it, and you let the urge fizzle out without a relapse, then you will have dealt a devastating blow to the addiction in a number of ways, because you just took its best shot, but you stayed standing. And in doing so, you gave it a hard uppercut and you took the wind right out of its sails. It's going to come back at you again at some point, but now that you've had your first big victory, you have begun to turn the tide. You have gained strength, and it is more likely that you will win the next one, and the next one, and the next one, etc. And each time an urge comes, but you withstand it with the Lord's help. And when you do that, each time you gain strength and the addiction gets weaker, and eventually, maybe a lot sooner than you think, it's all over. It's down for the count and you are free. So let's go into training, shall we? Hopefully by now, you have begun spending more time seeking the Lord in prayer. You've got time set aside each day to cry out to Him, to be in His Word, to worship Him, to connect with Him, and to get your heart in line with the truth. Keep doing that. And in one of these videos, I'll talk about some of the things you can focus on in your time in prayer each day. But for now, let's take 2 more practical steps in faith. Number 1, purge your environment. And number 2, fast. And obviously, none of this stuff that I'm talking about is original. You may have heard a lot of what I'm saying before, but sometimes people don't take it very seriously because they're deceived by the false gospel they've heard, and so they don't realize the danger they're in. So there's not a sense of urgency. They're not as committed to getting free as they should be because they're oblivious to the eternal consequences of not getting free. So that's why it's so important to hear the right gospel and to understand its implications. So hopefully you are now taking this as serious as a heart attack because you've realized what's at stake here. And so these practical steps are actually going to help you, since you're going to give the effort everything you've got now. Your heart is really in it now. You're not playing games with God anymore. So, number 1, purge your environment. Or as Jesus said, chop off your hand and gouge out your eye. As much as you can, you need to purge your life and your environment, your home, of whatever causes you temptations, whatever triggers you, whatever could potentially trigger you. So if an alcoholic wants to get over their problem with alcohol, they have to remove the alcohol from their house, from their immediate environment. Obviously, they cannot expect to make a whole lot of progress if they have a mini fridge full of beer and liquor in every room of their house. That's kind of like what's happening with many people who want to get free from pornography. You want to stop watching pornography, but you've got high-speed internet at your house. You got TV screens that hook up to the internet in multiple rooms of the house. There's laptops, there's smartphones, there's tablets lying around. That's not going to work if you're seriously addicted to pornography. So if that's your situation, if you've got electronics and devices all over the house where you can access pornography or you can access content that's semi-pornographic, I suggest that you get rid of everything that you do not actually need. You don't need a TV in the basement and in the living room and in your bedroom. And in reality, you don't need a TV in any room of your house. But if you're going to have one for whatever reason, have only one and keep it in a common area, not in your bedroom or something. Probably the best thing is just to get rid of it altogether if you can. You don't need to have a desktop computer and a laptop and a tablet, right? Unless you need all that stuff for work or something, but you don't need that for personal use. Try to whittle it down to what's reasonable and necessary. One cell phone, one computer, right? Simplify. Put some high quality software on your devices, your computer and your cell phone, that you cannot easily get around. And it's just for now. You won't necessarily need to have the software always, but at least have it for now while you go through this period of withdrawal. You may need to just get rid of the internet at your house altogether. Just get rid of the internet for a while and go to the library if you want to use the internet. Or you may have to give someone your laptop for a while and only use it when they're around. Maybe you need to get a flip phone. Not forever, but just for right now. You need to do something dramatic, do something very different from what you've been doing, and get this stuff out of your environment as much as you can. And by the way, this could be a good opportunity to sell possessions and give to the poor. Something Jesus told us to do in Luke 12, but which very rarely seems to actually happen. So why not be a blessing to the Lord and be one of the few people who actually takes that command seriously? And he's going to bless you for that, and he's going to strengthen you if you obey him on that, put it into practice. Additionally, movies and TV shows need to go. If you have an Apple TV or a Roku or an Amazon stick or something, if you have one of these systems where you can access apps like Netflix and Hulu or other movie apps, you should just get rid of that thing. You know that those apps are full of triggering content. They're full of things that you will be tempted to watch. Or oftentimes you see something in a movie, you're not trying to watch pornography, but you see something in a movie or a TV show, it's not technically pornography, but it's triggering. It makes you want pornography. It'll get your mind going down the wrong path. Could be a certain actress or actor that you find attractive, or someone who dresses in a revealing way, or there's a love scene that you weren't anticipating in a movie or a show. So unless you're watching Disney movies or something, there's almost definitely going to be something in most of the worldly entertainment that can irritate this thing inside of you and which could trigger an urge. So just disconnect yourself from the whole thing for the most part. Stop exposing yourself to that stuff. You need to have all that kind of stuff out of the house as much as possible so that when the time comes and that urge hits, you have a clean environment where you can go through that difficult experience without having softcore pornography or only a couple of clicks away on Netflix or something, and obviously without having the internet pornography at your disposal as well. That's like an alcoholic who's trying to deal with an urge to get drunk, and there's a six-pack of beer sitting across the room, and they sit there trying to ignore it. That's madness, right? You got to get it out of the house. So even if you weren't addicted to porn, most of what's on these movie apps, most of what's on TV, it's a complete waste of time anyway. You're squandering the time Jesus has entrusted to you on this junk that Netflix keeps pumping out, and it's not helpful. So I'm not saying that all film is wrong. Documentaries can be interesting and educational and informative depending on what they're about. Nature shows, very interesting. If you really want to take some time one night, to unwind and watch something, okay, watch something like that and maybe find it on YouTube, on your laptop or something rather than on Netflix or rather than on your, TV, Roku app thing, whatever. But fictional movies and TV, for the most part, they're just a total waste of your time, and most often will have something in it that Jesus and the apostles want nothing to do with. You know what I'm talking about. And you got to get serious about this stuff now. And so that means that if one of your friends, one of your friends from church or whatever invites you over to watch the game, football, basketball, whatever, or they invite you over for a movie night, you know that you will potentially be exposing yourself to unhelpful images in the commercials that will likely play or in the movie or in the show, unless it's a David Attenborough night or something. And so just respectfully decline, explain why if you need to. Maybe it will bring them some conviction if they're one of your church friends. And instead spend that time in a productive way. Use it to do something for the kingdom of God. Jesus' disciples don't have a bunch of time for movie marathons and Netflix binging, There's too much for us to be doing to waste our lives on that kind of thing. Now, some people around you in your church may think that you've gone too far, that you're legalistic or something like that. Just ignore that. You can talk to them about it after you've gotten free from pornography. You're not being legalistic. You are doing what Jesus called struggling to enter the narrow gate. You are doing what Peter called making every effort to confirm your calling and election. You're doing what Paul called forgetting all that lies behind and striving forward. Okay, this is not legalism. So don't let anyone get in your head and make you second guess what you're doing. No, this is not legalism. This is faith. This is normal Christianity. It's what's supposed to be normal Christianity anyway. And maybe you're thinking of other things that I haven't mentioned that you know you should do to cleanse and purge your environment of pornography and of things that can trigger you. So as much as you can, make your life and your home a clean environment. Okay, practical step number 2, fast. Fasting is a really important biblical and spiritual practice. It's a way to beseech the Lord and show him that you are serious about whatever it is you're asking for or praying about. He sees someone fasting and it shows him that, okay, this person really means it. And of course, fasting is like spiritual strength and conditioning. This is part of how you can prepare for your upcoming boxing match against that urge that's going to come against you. Because during a fast, you are denying your body what it wants. You are saying no to your natural desires. And when that is a normal rhythm in your life, when you fast on a regular basis, it strengthens you against temptations and urges when they come. When that temptation to watch pornography arrives, and when that urge comes against you, if you have been fasting, you have been training yourself to say no to what your brain and your body tells you it wants. You've been doing that when it comes to food, right? You've been allowing yourself to feel the discomfort of hunger for a period of time, and that will help you to go through the discomfort of the urge for pornography, to allow yourself to just feel that urge and to sit with it and let it pass and not give in. So there's no prescription in Scripture for how this has to look exactly. One thing you might consider is a longer fast now or sometime soon as you begin this fight against the addiction. Maybe once you've purged your environment, consider like a 2 or a 3 day water only fast, or maybe even a 5-day water only fast, if that is not physically dangerous for you. Some people might not be able to do that safely for whatever reason, but most people will be fine. It's uncomfortable, yes, but you'll be fine. You can also do bread and water only fasts or fruit and vegetable only fasts, but probably a water only fast is appropriate here. And then going forward from there, consider fasting weekly. You could fast for a day a week or for 2 days a week. It could be a 36-hour fast where you have dinner on Monday, for example, and you don't eat again till Wednesday morning. Or it could be like a 24-hour fast where you don't eat from 5 p.m. on one day until 5 p.m. on the next day. Whatever it is, it should be challenging to some degree so that you have to put up with some degree of discomfort on some regular basis. Many in the early church fasted on Wednesdays and Fridays, for example. It was a normal weekly rhythm, and it doesn't have to look like that for you. It just needs to look like something. Find a way to fast that works for you, because Jesus said this is supposed to be a part of our lives, not just for people who are addicts, but for all of his disciples. And it's going to be very, very helpful in this battle against pornography. All right, so it's getting a little noisy where I am, as you may be able to hear in the background. So good point to end this video. So there it is. Go to war, my friend. Put all this stuff into practice. Do it in the love for God, in the fear of God. Do it in faith. Do it prayerfully in the light of all that Jesus has said to us, in light of what he has done for us, in light of what is coming when he returns to judge the world. I hope that you can get excited about this, because while it's a difficult thing that you're facing, the life and the freedom that's on the other side of this fight is something to get very excited about. Okay, so thank you for watching. In the next episode, Lord willing, I'm going to talk about a big lie that you need to be aware of and that you need to not believe as you prepare for these upcoming boxing matches that you need to win and to get through. God bless you. Let me know if you would like to talk.